Hello there folks, my name is Spoonks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Elemental, making $9 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $125 million and a worldwide total of $312 million. This movie has had astonishingly strong holds throughout its entire theatrical run, but this weekend's hold was absolutely incredible. It only dropped 9%, folks. That is incredible. Absolutely insane holds. This movie's word of mouth has just been killing it. It's pretty much been the dominant force of the box office for quite some time now, and because of that, it has surpassed the entire domestic gross of both Lightyear and The Good Dinosaur, which I'm sure Pixar is very happy to see. And if it continues to hold as well as it has been for the next couple weeks, I could see it coming close or maybe even surpassing the domestic total of Cars 3. This movie's just been really resonating with families and moviegoers that I think it's a major possibility. And in terms of other milestones, it has surpassed the $300 million milestone worldwide, which is also very good. Internationally, it's been really kicking it as well, especially in, I believe, South Korea. It's been just dominating over there. And keep in mind, folks, it still has yet to release in Japan. Again, it doesn't come out till like early August over there. So I can only imagine how well this movie's going to do over there. This movie has just been really dominating the box office and exceeding expectations despite its biggest enemy being its costly budget. I still think that they're very happy over how well this movie was able to overperform and exceed the low expectations, especially after the opening weekend. It still needs a lot to double this budget, but you cannot deny this is a very impressive run for Elemental, and I look forward to see where it goes from here, even if this is one of, if not the last time we see it in the top 5. This has just been an absolutely incredible run for Elemental. Number 4 was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, making $12 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $145 million and a worldwide total of $302 million. So in terms of milestones, this is just $5 million away from surpassing the $150 million milestone, which is pretty impressive to say the least, especially considering the lackluster summer we've had. And it has finally surpassed the $300 million milestone worldwide, which is probably pretty impressive to somebody. But if you are aware that this movie has a ridiculously high budget that could be just about or maybe even over a $300 million budget, this is still very, very bad. Audiences just did not care to see Indiana Jones. Unfortunately, the word of mouth has not done this movie any favors. It's been fading very fast. It should have surpassed the milestones I just mentioned several weeks ago, and the fact that it's just now about to surpass these milestones is quite upsetting. This is going to be a pretty big failure at the box office for sure. In terms of surpassing the other Indiana Jones films, it'll be lucky to get close to that of Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it might be able to surpass Temple of Doom internationally and worldwide and domestically, but that's probably about it. I don't see it getting to the heights of the previous incarnations of Indiana Jones, unfortunately. This movie has just been hurt by the summer competition and the bad word of mouth. People just did not want to see this movie, unfortunately. Number 3 was Insidious: The Red Door, making $13 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $58 million and a worldwide total of $122 million. So this movie took a pretty big hit this weekend. It fell 61% from the prior weekend, which isn't what you really want to see, unfortunately. That C+ cinema score rating did not do this film any favors. Word of mouth has not been too kind to this movie. But in all honesty, it really isn't affecting the movie a lot because this movie is still a massive hit otherwise. Thanks to its $16 million budget, this movie has made well over the doubling point. Like, $58 million alone would be good enough. But the fact that it's already over $100 million worldwide is absolutely insane. It shows, once again, how horror is a pretty dominant genre in the box office, and how Insidious is a pretty dominant franchise in the horror genre. This franchise and the horror genre has just been kicking it very well over the past couple years now, and it's looking like this trend is going to keep continuing. So while yes, it's probably going to start slowing down very soon due to the stiff competition, this is still heading in the right direction. It's already in the place it needs to be, and I can't see anyone really being upset over where this movie is already. It's certainly going to surpass Evil Dead Rise, and we'll see if it can muster up enough to surpass Megan, or maybe even come close to Scream 6 as the biggest horror movie of the year, which may seem a bit unlikely given this huge drop-off, but anything can happen, really. Horror has just been dominating this year. So yeah, while a pretty rough drop-off overall for its second weekend, Insidious is still doing pretty well nonetheless. Number 2 was Sound of Freedom, making $27 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $85 million, and that total stays the same worldwide as it hasn't been released in any international countries yet. So this movie had a wicked bump this weekend. It bumped up, actually, from the previous weekend, up 39%, which is absolutely insane. Even though this is probably due to the fact that it expanded into more theaters this weekend, but still, this is incredible to see. The word of mouth has just been killing it thus far. I had no idea this movie was coming out. This completely came out of nowhere, but this is really resonating with audiences. And like Insidious, this movie is pretty much made all the money it needs to with a $14 million budget. This is already a huge hit nonetheless. It's certainly going to surpass $100 million domestically for sure. And even with all the controversy surrounding like all the weird conspiracy theories coming out from people who have seen this movie, to the confusion over the pay it forward program this movie is using, the movie has still made itself a huge hit, despite, a lot of people not knowing this was even a thing, myself included, before its opening, really. This has just become a very big surprise hit domestically, and we'll see how much more it can go. There is some very stiff competition on the horizon. We'll see how it affects this movie's performance, but otherwise, like Insidious, The Red Door, this movie is pretty much already where it needs to be, and it looks like it's not going to be stopping anytime soon. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, opening with $54 million this weekend, and including the Wednesday numbers, that adds to a domestic total of $78 million and a worldwide total of $234 million. This is the 8th biggest opening weekend of the summer, topping Insidious The Red Door and Elemental, but it still sits behind The Flash, Indiana Jones, Transformers, Fast X, The Little Mermaid, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It is also the 4th biggest opening weekend for a Mission Impossible film, topping Mission Impossible, Mission Impossible 3, and Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, but it sits behind Rogue Nation, Mission Impossible 2, and Mission Impossible Fallout. So this movie kind of came in a bit under expectations. I'm sure a lot of people were expecting a huge Top Gun bump, oh, that movie did so incredibly well, and it's sure to help out Mission Impossible, especially with the fact that the trailer for this movie played with screenings for Top Gun a year ago. And I was certainly one of these people, but looking back, you gotta realize and understand these movies aren't usually big openers. Again, Mission Impossible Fallout is the biggest opening, but that's still only open to $60 million. But the thing that helps these movies out is the longevity, their long legs, and their strong word of mouth. So while I had high expectations, I wasn't really expecting a huge increase. I think the biggest thing that hurt this movie, though, however, was moving it up to Wednesday. I get it. They wanted to give this movie enough time in those premium large format screens before all the big competition this weekend. But I really do feel like had this movie opened on the 14th like it was originally intended to, the opening would have been much better had it opened with the $78 million for the 3-day weekend. It would claim the biggest opening weekend of the franchise, and it's certainly one of the bigger openings for a 3-day opening the summer, but the Wednesday, I think, kind of hurt it a little bit. But still, this movie is still not doing terribly, as even though the movie has a $291 million budget, that's mostly due to all the COVID problems it suffered through its production. This movie has made a good sum of it back with, again, $234 million, which certainly puts it in a better position than stuff like Indiana Jones and The Flash. I'm sure it'll surpass $300 million worldwide very soon. We'll see how the legs are. Audiences seem to really like it. It got an A on CinemaScore, which is very good. It's just the competition, especially this weekend, like I mentioned earlier, is big and fierce. So we'll see how it's able to fend off itself against those huge tentpole movies. But yeah, as far as the opening, it's not terrible. It certainly could have been better, but it's more in line with how these movies typically go. Again, the competition, that's what's really gonna be interesting to see if it can fend off itself. But otherwise, I'm not too disappointed or upset about this. We'll just have to hope it legs out and fares better than a lot of the other summer movies. As far as its opening, it's good enough, I would say. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet, as we got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend, boy oh boy, is it quite possibly the biggest weekend of the year, as we have 2 of the most anticipated and biggest movies of the year coming out this weekend. One of them being Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, the new historical drama about the creation of the atomic bomb. Now, this movie has had quite the buzz and hype for it, obviously from Christopher Nolan fans, but also given the movie it's going up against, it has also led to a big interest boom in it for itself that I think really helped it out a lot. The trailers have looked very promising. The marketing has been fantastic. I've been seeing tons and tons of promo for this, and the fact that it's one of the few films aimed exclusively for adults this summer is also really gonna help it out a lot, as well as, you know, Christopher Nolan and the huge buzz it has. It will be interesting to see how big of an opening this can be, because again, this is pretty dour. It's not a huge summer movie you would expect. It's about the creation of the atomic bomb and the ramifications of that, the moral quarrels of this creation. So it'll be interesting to see how big this movie can get, how far it can go this weekend. But I think it's going to be a pretty solid opening this weekend, certainly for a movie like this coming out in the summer. It's honestly probably gonna make bigger money than a lot of the other summer movies that came out this summer, which will be admittedly pretty funny to see. But we'll see how this movie truly does. But then there's the other huge movie coming out this weekend, that film being Barbie. There can only be one winner this weekend, and sorry, Christopher Nolan, but I think Barbie will be that winner. The marketing for this movie has been exceptional. I have been seeing tons and tons of promo for this. The buzz is super strong with this movie. Pretty much everyone I know is going to see this movie, and Barbie has just been an iconic, significant figure of pop culture. Everyone knows who Barbie is, and I think that's also going to really help this movie out. It looks silly, it looks fun, and looks like one of the last big, fun, silly little summer movies, and I think this movie is truly gonna dominate. I haven't felt this confident about a movie being hugely successful since probably Mario, and honestly, I think this movie's probably gonna come very close to Mario's number, if I'm being honest with you. Who knows? Maybe it might even open bigger than that. Who knows? Maybe. These are just speculations, but I think it's got enough to become one of the biggest openings of the week, of the year, and especially the summer. Everything is working for this movie. I have very high expectations for this, but we'll see how well this movie truly does, as well as the rest of the movies that land in the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.